Good morning, everybody. It's Michael again with your latest supply and demand market report. I hope you've all been well. This video is going to look at cryptocurrencies. Please remember, it's purely for educational purposes only and not a recommendation for you to base any of your trading decisions. Okay, starting with Bitcoin. And there's been a lot of new information come into the cryptoverse in general, so we've seen a big boost in the prices of cryptocurrencies. You will recall from previous videos that we talked about this level of demand and the possibility of prices rising from it, but we also made the case for why it might not be the zone to trade, just because of the structural weaknesses in that level, the way that it is structured, the level of volatility within the base, and its location overall. But as the markets would have it, the markets have used that level as an area to take the trade off of. So the trade has worked off of that level, probably just got there by the pip almost, and it's rallied very strongly. Now, it's important to understand that we are very much process-based. And I would encourage you to think about that, because you will have situations where your processes will filter you out of taking trades that end up working. And that can, if you're not careful, really be psychologically challenging, because you start to look for ways to include those kind of trades going forward into your trading plan. I would suggest that you keep a log of these kind of scenarios, like, lots of people that I know, including myself, have done over the years. And overall, you find that, the trades you do screen out, in the long run, you will save money overall, because they won't always work. They won't always be like this. With hindsight, you can say, oh, I should have taken that trade. As we all know and often hear said, shoulda, woulda, coulda is never the thing. Was this part of our process? For me, the way that I trade supply and demand and look at markets in general, absolutely not. Was I unhappy that it moved up? Absolutely not. I had no investment emotionally into whether the level worked or not. And I don't have such in any of the zones that I trade. I score them, I assess them. If they meet the criteria, we trade them. If they don't, they don't, and we don't trade them. Whether they work or not, you'll notice, is not involved in that calculation, because that's always known after the fact. Okay, but it has given us new information now. We still are in the supply zone on the weekly, which is over here, but prices are moving deeper and deeper into that weekly level, and this is now, another return to it, and it's gone much deeper this time. As you can see, we have talked about scenarios. I've still left the arrows there. We've talked about the scenarios of what could happen if this goes out, and we are creating levels now, because we've gone to new highs. We are creating levels of demand that would be interesting for prices to return to. Obviously, the extreme is also a level, but you have to get through this one before you can get to the extreme, and there's enough distance between them for them to be individual trades. So these are the levels that we will be watching going forward into the coming days in Bitcoin. Looking at Ethereum, it also has had its move. Ethereum has broken through this level that we talked about, and the quality of it and how it's not so good, as well as this one on the daily. This one here was into the supply zone, and we were looking to see if it was going to be the level to hold. Clearly it hasn't held, and it's gone through, and now we can update our chart and just take that out. So we're now looking at, again, a market that took out demand, that immediate return. Remember, we were saying this was an area where a decision now had to be made, and what it turns out is a shakeout, that people have been shaken out with this move. You see all of that basing that happened. Let me just take off the magnet. All of the basing that happened in this area, prices went ever so slightly below it, took out any stops that were there, and it fell into demand with supply above, but the market has used that as a ramp to jump higher. So now we're watching to see, does it continue to move up and go through the supply, which has been tested multiple times, and whether it'll leave demand back here on the weekly. This is not as clear as Bitcoin. For sure, Bitcoin to me looks the better of the two, just looking at the structure of the levels. Although, to be fair, this does have its own levels as well. Clearly on the daily, you can see the base rally there. It's just I would really like it to push above, preferably that high, for me to be really more comfortable, and for it to meet my requirements, for me to feel more comfortable buying pullbacks. But it definitely is showing some strength, and it has broken, as we said, through supply. It still needs to get through pivot highs. There's one higher up as well over there that's into these highs up here. So we'll see how it gets on this week. There, as I said, there's new fundamental information that's caused this rally with, big institutions setting up their own exchanges. So we'll see how far it carries. It definitely has been in a basing pattern. All of that is a basing pattern, the smiley face. So just bear that in mind. A breakout of here would be pretty long term, because this is a weekly base. So yeah, there will be plenty of opportunities to get into these trades going forward. And lastly, looking at Litecoin, that one also has taken out its supply. So we're seeing the energy of the sellers coming in. Litecoin is actually the weakest of the three. It's still in its box, as we said last week. It's now negotiating with the supply on the weekly, where it has now reached with this rally that it's had in the last week. Yeah, the weekly is still with lower highs and lower lows, but we're still in a range overall. We're now at the higher end of the range, where if this range is going to remain intact, you would expect sellers to try to sell, as high as they can in the range, whether that's this supply zone or that supply zone. And the breaking of these two would give us new information as well, that this market is likely trying to enact one of the scenarios we've talked about in these videos of breaking out of the range to the upside. So we'll see how it pans out. But for now, there's really not much to do in Litecoin. The clearer trade ideas are in Ethereum and definitely in Bitcoin. Yeah. All right, that will do it. That's 8 minutes. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate your viewership, and I'll see you again soon. Take care, everybody.